teen office says, I will present the quote for the flooring and for the installation for next meeting, and raise
I have a
the,
controller here. Can
Yeah, please. I mean, it's
That's on.
it's green, so
I? Okay.
I don't.
Here, I can share with you if you would like, if you're the only one.
Oh,
oh, there
here
you
we-
go.
here we go.
I can read that. I can't read the.
I was
headline.
like,
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, and raise the issue of possibility of teen voting with,
Yep.
with the, I'll discuss that with the teen librarian.
All right. Any further discussion on teen flooring? All right. Hearing none, we have a budget and finance update from Tom.
Only in that, since the last meeting, there was the town meeting, which I think everybody, or a lot of you were at. I know you were sitting in front of me,
Yeah.
and the town budget was voted and approved. So since we were part of that, we got our budget approved. I have requested a final tally for what actually got into ours, because there were some things that I had asked for specifically, and I just wanted to see what was eventually put into that. I know the town was asking for level services, and so I know there was a little adjustment that needed to take place just to make sure that we were still coming in what they were shooting for, and so just waiting for that to come in, and when I get that, I will be sharing it with everybody.
So, Tom, I know that at town meeting, excuse me, the one of the handouts included what they called maybe for lack of a better term, addendum, that showed the further breakdown of each of the 5 main categories or 6 main categories of spending. So I'm pretty sure that the library was included. The bottom line that we voted on at town meeting would have been included in that handout. Do you recall that handout?
I don't.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was attached in the back. I think it was in green or something like that.
Okay.
So that vote is really the official vote, and
Right.
so that
Right.
I'm pretty sure that information is already out there, based on the.
I didn't. I mean, I remember. I vaguely remember going through that.
Right.
I didn't think it broke it down.
I don't think it broke down
As-
necessarily all the items, but
Right.
I'm referring to the bottom line,
Right.
a total.
Right. And I'm not. I'm just not sure whether the bottom line included everything that I had requested,
Oh, okay.
or
Gotcha.
whether there were still some adjustments that needed to
Okay.
take place. So, for instance, adding additional hours for staff members. I'm not sure whether all of the additional hours that I had requested ended up getting into the bottom line.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I ask a question? So, what's the ballpark figure for our annual budget?
Like 1.3 million, I believe it is.
All in.
And the majority of that is salaries.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then the other part of it, which I can talk about now, is a large part of it is materials. So, and this all ties. Look how this all ties in together. See, so when we were discussing the state aid, this is all interconnected in that. There's MBLC, which is Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. That's who we get a fair amount of our state aid from, and they have 3 requirements for us to qualify for the state aid, for the funding that they provide, as well as for us to be a certified library in Massachusetts. And so the library has to be open, and it's usually based on the size of the town. Right? The library has to be open a certain number of hours. For us, it's 50, and we're actually open 58 a week, so we're good there. That the town needs to be committed to supporting the library, demonstrated by an average of a 2% increase over the span of 3 years. which is a way of saying like, well, if you have a tough year and you can't do it, but you do like 4% another year, as long as it averages out to about 2% over the course of 3 years, that's good. And the other, and the significantly more difficult one to address, is that we need to be spending 15% of our overall budget on materials for the library. Materials for the library is somewhat of a vague term in that it really comes down to items that can be used by the patrons, right? So programming doesn't count, or if we buy new chairs for the teen room that have cup holders, that doesn't count. But kind of almost anything else. So any books, DVDs, library of things items, whatever we're buying that patrons are going to be accessing and using at the library, usually checking out, right? So if I buy a new public computer for the public computer section, that doesn't count. But if we were to buy laptops that people could check out and use within the library for an hour, that would count. So if it's going to be used by the patrons, then that counts towards that 15%. And so each year, and this is based on, again, the population of the town. So for the town of our size, it's 15%. It varies depending on the size of the town. So we're required to spend 15% of our budget on educational materials is the term they use. And so as long as we do that, and we are going to do it again this year, then we are a certified library, which is nice because there are only like 4 libraries in the state that don't have certification. You don't want to be the 5th one. Sorry to any of those 4 libraries. But they should try harder. As long as we do all that, then we get our certification, our funding from the state, and that goes into the funds that we have for state aid.
And is that around like 95,000? And we're talking maybe like 7 or 8%. It's a little under 10.
Yeah, the amount that we have to spend.
No, the amount
we
that they,
receive.
yes.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah, the amount we have to spend is considerably more.
Right.
This year, for the new year, it's going to be about 180,000.
Do we, I know that on the front end of your tenure, we talked just at a very high level about like efficiencies, let's say in what vendors we use for materials. So if we have efficiency, cost efficiency, and savings, we actually have to then scramble on the back end to buy more stuff.
Right. So, yeah, I mean,
And
almost
hopefully we have enough room for that stuff.
yeah,
too.
it almost gets to the point where it's like, could you not give me the discount because it's easier for me to spend my money? But ultimately, it gets us more resources. So yes, it is difficult, and hitting the 15% is really hard because this time of year you go back and forth. We are going back and forth between, oh my gosh, we're never going to be able to spend that much, and oh my goodness, we've spent too much. Because it's hard to hit that exact number, right? Because of the way that purchasing works and that. So it's not the same as like, oh, I need a new blender. I'm going to go on Amazon, buy a new blender, and it's here in 3 days. That's not how it works. So I have the different department heads are the ones who are in charge of their areas, and I provide them a certain amount of money and for different resources and formats, and then it's their responsibility to put together their orders throughout the year. But when we place an order, we could place an order for $1,000 of books with Ingram, one of our main book distributor. But then if they're out of some of them and things go on back order, then we've got to figure out, okay, my God, then we're not going to be getting 500 of it. So is that going to be subtracted from what we get? Are they going to come in time? So it's a tense time of year for libraries right now. Coming up to the fiscal year is all tight.
What's our budget? If we have to spend 15%, like, do we have a budget of 16% or 15.5?
Well, I mean, we figure out what the 15% is with the knowledge that, and keep track of it, right? And with the understanding that we don't want to hit 14.5, but if we go over, then we have better resources. And so, considering the amount of aid that we get from MPLC, it's better to overspend by a certain amount because you're getting so much more in return, right?
Sounds like our budget is higher than that 15%. So it's not that you're just holding to that 15%. Like everyone has a little wiggle room to
Right.
spend above that.
Right.
Perfect.
Yep.
Are we over budget right now? Are we trending? What are we looking
We're
at?
trending a little over. Yeah.
How much is a little?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So do we have the wiggle room to, if something we know, is there any way to like cancel an order and then replace it with something else? Like what are we bound to when we put in an order and then we find out later that it may not be delivered within a certain time? And so does that accounts receivable count toward that 15%, or is it only things that have been delivered?
There is a little wiggle room there, and we also worked very closely with our vendor. Again, Ingram, our primary. If you look at the warrants that you approved before, you'll see that name Ingram on there quite a bit. I've actually known the representative there for a number of years, for about 10 years. And so we had a conversation, and he encouraged that we would actually pre-order a lot. So we were ordering things about 3 months in advance. So as of end of March, we were really ordering things to fill us out through the end of the year. So we had a pretty good idea of what we were going to be getting. And we really haven't. I mean, there's not a lot that's been going on back order for us. So
Do we know in real time when we order something what the ETA is on delivery, or whether something's on back order? That would be like a wish list item.
It's a little nebulous because you have so many other libraries all ordering from the same place, right? So their stock, their stock could look like it's pretty strong, and they have different sites around the country that they satisfy from. And when we're placing the orders, we can see exactly where, Pennsylvania has plenty of them, so and that's our first resource where things come from. So we have a pretty good chance that things are going to be coming in.
Anything else?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
Any further discussion?
One question, so
Yes.
when you talk in terms of material, is it always some physical copy that can be checked out, or do
Not,
we have a virtual wing?
yeah, not necessarily. It also includes databases that we're purchasing,
Okay. we
right?
do.
So yeah, so it's as long as they're being accessed by patrons, it's good.
And do the patrons need to access their sitting in the library? They
Nope.
can, okay.
Nope. No. So if somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning wants to go out and read an ebook, they're helping us out.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So one quick point of clarification. So if so things weren't back ordered, and a lot of the ordering went in March, so we've received a lot already.
Yeah.
Right? That we had assumed would be back ordered. Now, do you budget the spending of, we're going to spend this much in March, in April, May, and June, because the fiscal year is July, right?
Right.
So, but
Right.
you're not expending the rest of the budget from March until July.
Right.
Or
So
are you? Yeah.
Our head of technical services, who is the one who actually submits the orders with the vendor,
Yeah.
had a cutoff date of May 1st. And
Okay.
so we stopped all ordering as of then.
Okay.
So that was the last time that we actually placed any new orders.
Yep.
And the department heads, in the beginning of the fiscal year, I let them know based on what the library budget is, what their amount is, and then if it's something we're ordering on a monthly basis, we break it by 12, and
Yep.
that's what they have to spend.
Oh, great. So we've expended what we were meant to
Yeah.
expend out of the budget.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay. Great. Any further discussion? Thank you, Tom.
Of course.
So we'll give Tom a break for a little while. And so the Friends update, Carrie Hogan, so she can't be here with us tonight. So generally, one of the things that we do as a board is we liaise with, the other groups who support the library, one being the Friends of the Grafton Public Library. Because we're not allowed to do fundraising as a library. We're a free public library. So by extension, the board doesn't do fundraising. We can support fundraising and show up and help out and volunteer. But really, the Friends of the Grafton Public Library does all of our fundraising. They do a lot with the book sale, a few book sales through the year, and they have some spaces where patrons can kind of browse and make purchases and donate, funds to the Friends. And then the Friends can fund certain items that that we don't budget for. One of the things that I think we don't often put in the budget is museum passes, and that's a really great resource for the patrons. So they do fund that almost on an annual basis for as long as I can remember. Up to $5,000, even $10,000 worth of museum passes, right? So it's always great because one of our responsibilities as trustees is also to go out and be advocates for the library and in the community. So that's one of the things we can always promote is the things we really love about the library and that a lot of people aren't making good use of, such as museum passes, right? So as we liaise with the Friends, what we often do is right now Carrie has been doing a fantastic job meeting with the Friends because they usually meet on a Zoom meeting once a month on a Tuesday, I believe, and she just listens in, and then she provides us an update on what's going on with the Friends. And but I also encourage, we all encourage others to also sit in on those meetings because it lets it lets the Friends know that we're supporting their mission and what they're doing and appreciate the work that they do, and also gives an opportunity to meet us, right? So I would encourage both of you, being new trustees, to attend at least one Friends meeting in the next 3 months or so, just so they know who you are and can say hello and build a relationship. So, any other questions, commentary? And one of the last things is, it's part of the Friends supporting the library. We can support the Friends, and we often do by becoming members of the Friends of the Grafton Public Library. So I think it's $10 for an individual annual membership, $25 for a family membership, and we generally like to do it as a board around the January timeframe. So your current Friend member, thank you for that. But if you want to re-up, we usually do it in January. And I think they have an annual meeting coming up. Anybody know what the date is? Actually, it's on my calendar.
It's
if anybody has it.
June 10th.
No, that's the Zoom meeting. Is that?
June 10th is the Zoom meeting for Friends.
But they're having an annual meeting coming up as well.
Oh yes, that is.
Is that the 10th? No, because that's going to be in person. The annual meeting
I
is in
can
person. It's at the library.
It's on the 18th.
18th. Here we go.
Friends annual meeting on the 18th from 6:30 to 7:30, and all current Friends members and those who would like to sign up at the meeting are invited. But it's really open to just members of the Friends, and that's generally when they elect their new leadership and go over some of the fundraising ideas, and also they go over some of their finances. So,
Aaron, question on that in terms of the annual meeting. I remember this from when I joined, though I don't remember the resolution. Is there a limit to the number of board members that can be at the annual meeting together, like
No.
there are with other types of events?
well, any type of event where we have a quorum, we just
Yeah.
need to post an agenda, or rather an agenda and also minutes that after that meeting that we met. Even though we didn't talk about library
Okay.
business, or we may, and we have to keep minutes. So, yeah. So yeah, I think we should all go. And actually, by show of hands, who's going to attend that meeting? Because I don't think we'll have the next opportunity to find out, because we can't poll.
Is that a Wednesday?
Over email.
That's a Wednesday, right?
It's a Wednesday. I intend to go. So,
I think we can poll on email for things that aren't deliberative.
Uh-huh.
To simple attendance
Mhm.
at something I think is certainly allowed
Mhm.
under the open meeting law. It's just that quote unquote deliberations regarding committee business can't be deliberated in that sort of serial email fashion.
interesting.
Yeah.
So what I said, so that negates what I just said, right?
Yeah, in other words, like if we can sort of banter about our availability for a meeting over email. It's just that in that context, we can't deliberate meeting matters outside of that posted meeting.
Of course, that's what I misunderstood. But I thought you also mentioned if we were going to get together, we still need to post.
Yeah, we still need to post because there's
Yes.
probably the likelihood that we may weigh in on these matters, and it's really related to library business. So I think it's a best practice, and by having posted it, it allows us not to find ourselves refraining from speaking.
Okay.
You know.
So then I will suggest that those who haven't made a decision yet figure out if you can come, and then Doug will put out an email, and you got to tell him yes or no, because we'd have to post an agenda if it's more than 4 people.
Right. And I think as a best practice, it probably can't hurt to post it, notwithstanding in case someone changes their mind at the last minute. At least it would be posted, and then we can always just sort of approve the minutes of a non-meeting.
Would you post an agenda for us for the 18th
Yes.
from 6 to 7:30? Thank you.
So you said 6 to 7:30?
6:30 to 7.
Oh, 6:30, okay.
I did say 6 to 7:30. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. I didn't know when that was. All right,
6:30 to
All
7:30.
right, thank you.
Yeah, and they usually have refreshments as well. Great. I think that
That's
was.
the
Go ahead.
That's the 18th for the annual meeting.
Yes.
What was the other meeting on the 4th or?
I think it was their standard monthly meeting, which is on the
Okay.
10th, and that's usually via Zoom.
And that was the first meet and greet I think for Tom
Mhm.
was last year.
Yeah.
So you're coming up on your tenure as well.
I am.
I think we did that together, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay. Any further discussion about Friends? All right. Moving on. The walkabout, Chris.
Sure. So go through a couple things. One is, and this reminded me of thinking about Dana. She had always been talking about weeds and trying to get volunteers last year. They aren't that prevalent yet, but you can start to see them coming in. I did my first round of weeding at home, and so just wanted to kind of raise that to the new members that there is the possibility of helping the 2 volunteers that currently do a bunch of our weeding. But I know that there was also some conversation, the no resolution last fall, in terms of what services we might procure that could take care of that for us, since we couldn't seem to quite keep up the way that we wanted. So just wanted to say that in advance of the summer. There was the hornet and wasp nest that was in the light above the front door is still there. I don't know if it was active. There was a couple things flying around, but it was in there. And so that may be worth being checked. There's also some masonry on the front step of the old building facing the inn that has kind of gotten worse over the last year. And so I noticed that when I went through, and I have some pictures of those. That's helpful, and I can send those to you, Kim.
Thank you.
The other thing that I did want to just kind of raise, and this is maybe not within the scope of the walkabout, but maybe something that we could talk about next month, is, in terms of the water that's getting into the teen room. There was a fan that was in there, and I know that we still have sandbags outside, which I think largely does a huge job of preventing damage, but I'm wondering if there is a way to be more proactive to find a solution. If we're getting water in on normal rainstorms, I kind of have concern of when we do have a larger rainstorm, what that might look like. So that would be another piece. And I went by in the last storm that we had in the last week or so, and you did see a lot of drips at the same areas on that gutter, again, on that inside, where we've seen it above the book return and the teen room door.
Chris, has the berm on South Street continued to keep the water at bay?
I have not ever seen any more water on that backside.
Okay.
There,
No, really not.
yeah. So I haven't seen any evidence of that. And I don't
That's good, because I know that there was one storm that seemed to be raining at what I would say is a rate of 4 inches an hour. It was coming down, and these types of storms, to the best of my knowledge, have not resulted in at least anything on the back of the building.
I don't think that they have. I don't know. So,
Haven't seen it.
so anyway, so that just wanted to raise that, because I know that the teen room has been getting water under that door for a while.
So that's a punch list item? Yes,
It's on there.
great.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. So, just like logistically, how this all works, right? So we find new stuff. It goes on the punch list. Like, where are you for your like? Does the punch list have a budget? And do you feel like you have enough budget to like tackle the critical items? Like, I think wasp nests for safety and like flooding. Like, are we resourced appropriately to handle the big items on the punch list, or are we just like putting out little fires every week and stuff keeps falling down because we don't have that we don't have enough resources for it?
So, there are different resources, even time, right, as well. And so, with things like the HVAC, there's been a certain triage element of it.
Yeah,
right?
that one, it sounds like you guys went back and forth on
Right,
the
right.
root
And so,
cause.
right. So, we have the punch list, and things are pretty much prioritized on there, right? But so thus far, there has been an element of putting out fires. Sure. The resources, I think, ultimately we do, but it has to be monitored because there are a lot of things, and so I could easily see it turning into we think we have enough to address all the things, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So do we have all the resources that we could use? Probably not ultimately, but not everything needs to be addressed right now.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes sense. It's like at your house, right? You have
Right,
those critical
right,
items. I'm just
right.
thinking like, and it might become clearer as we see the punch list, right? But like items that are critical and potentially could cause like further damage to the building,
Right.
like those I want to make sure you're
Yep.
there's because I know we're getting towards the end of the fiscal year too, right?
Yep.
Is it July you said it ends or June?
June 30th. So, like at home, if your hot water heater goes, that,
So,
even if that hadn't been on the punch list before, then it's automatically at the top of the punch list.
yeah, so to your point, you think that there may be room in the current budget to address some lingering items, and it's an opportunity before the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, or are we putting stuff off for next year? I haven't seen the budget, so I don't know where we're falling right now, but like coming towards the end of the year, like are there things we're going to try and push through before? Or conversely, I guess I'm worried if there's critical items, we're waiting till July for the new budget, where should we be talking about it and it's just going to make the problem worse? And the answer might be like we're perfectly fine, right? And we're in an okay spot. I was just curious which one it which of the three buckets
So-
we're in.
Right. So a lot of these issues don't fall under the regular budget, right? And so that's a lot of the times why I'm bringing them here and saying, we got to do something about the HVAC, and that's when I bring for approval here. And those come from the state aid. The nice thing about the state aid is that it's not on a time frame, right? So whereas the budget items, like for the buying the materials that I have to do to hit that 15%, that's on a very strict time frame. But these elements are not, which is good and it's bad, because then, cans tend to get kicked down the road a little bit because we can't address everything all at once. And so, we don't, it's not like, oh my gosh, we should really address these before the end of the fiscal year because then we'll lose our money. But we don't want to always be putting things off as well.
Excuse me, Tom, what is the status of the tumblers on the bottom of that door? Is that teen room door? I thought the idea of the whole, I don't know if that was an interior door that was put on an exterior? Or did the tumblers come down
So, yeah.
sufficiently? Is that being addressed?
I was actually gonna, Chris, I was going to mention one thing that I was down, excuse me, I was down there for a recent, during a recent rainstorm. And, the flooring was pretty damp.
Yep.
But there wasn't any water coming in underneath the door. So it's not that the door, there's a gap on the door and it's all the water's flowing in. That's not it. So what it seems to be is that the water is seeping in another way.
Okay.
So that's something that I've discussed with the town, and we're going to be looking into that.
Okay.
Because it makes sense. That's like, oh, well, we need to make sure that it's not coming in through the doorway, and we have those, snake-like things
Yep.
that we put up in front, which do something. They absorb, but it's not like we're seeing water flowing in underneath the door.
Sure.
So, like and I don't know the official terms, but the jam on the floor, I guess we'll say.
Like under the door or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like during that heavy rain, when the floor was damp, that was not. It was like I wasn't feeling any water there at all. So I'm a little concerned, which might raise it up on the punch list, if it's something more structural than just oops, we put on the wrong door.
Yeah, no, I think that's the first time I've heard that, but I
Yeah.
think that's true. That would make me concerned about that.
Yeah,
I also have noticed that the gutters kind of overflow in those areas.
they do.
And so, and I know that they have been cleaned, I think, since you have been here, yeah?
I don't think they have, because I know that's
Okay.
been discussed with the town as well,
Okay.
and I believe that William, the assistant town administrator, just provided a quote to Doug
Okay.
addressing that.
But I think that, certainly in my mind, I think there may be two things, but,
Yeah.
if we can keep the water away from the edge of the building, that may
Right.
resolve
Right.
even the structural, is a structural issue or something with the slab, that's probably an additional piece. But it's actually good to know it's not coming under the door, I suppose, in some ways. Depends.
Depends on
But,
where it's
yeah.
coming from, right?
Yeah, but anyway, so that was one. The last one that I heard, just kind of talking with the staff was, it sounds like it's not a new issue, but new issue that I had not heard of was some water pressure issues. And in terms of when they run a certain sink or a washer, some of the water in bathrooms doesn't work and things like that. That was the first that I'd heard of it. I don't know if that,
That
Is
has been
something-
brought to my attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it's necessarily new. But it either is increasing with frequency or people notice it more, one or the other. But that was kind of what I had found in this month.
Did you have something, Kim?
No, I noticed that too, at different times. You're in the kitchen, if the dishwasher's going, the pressure's a little different. Hot to cold, the hot might come out very slowly, the cold pours out. It's very strange. The other thing I noticed is that last heavy rainfall we had, where the book drop is, the mulch that was just laid was essentially all washed off.
Yeah, it's that gutter.
Yeah.
You can see it where it just drops down. So, I mean, if that's not a punch list item,
It
it
is.
is. Yeah, I did notice that too.
We have films of that one.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's on there.
Great. So thank you, Chris.
Yep.
So will you do the walkabout again? It seems like it was more of you did a combination outdoor indoor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, usually I do both.
Do you want to volunteer for the next one, or would you want to open it up to the
I'm happy
board?
I'm happy to do either. It's
Yeah.
whatever other people's feelings are.
So, do you guys understand what it is that he
And I'm happy
does?
to do it with someone the first time or something too.
Yeah. So if either of you would like to go along,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
If
Right.
I'm in town and if that's the day you're planning for it,
Yep.
I'll join you.
Great.
I'll probably have to defer till July, but
Yeah.
put me in for July.
Okay. Excellent. So, Kim added both your emails to the trustee email. It's just trustees@graftonlibrary.org.
I think so.
But she also has your direct emails from the town clerk's office. We should probably share the trustee contact information. Is that for tonight?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
excellent.
just need to get Prabhu's phone number.
Yep.
The
Okay.
best contact number. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
One last question. So,
Yes.
the team room, is that the one when we enter, one on the left, where we host events and stuff, or no?
No.
What's the room that, once we enter the library, from the parking lot, it's on the left side.
That's a community room,
That's a community room.
right? So a very large room.
Yeah,
Yep, and that's with the intended for programming. We use that for programming. It's actually two rooms,
right.
technically, because it can be divided in
Right, right,
case we
right.
had conflicting events going on. But that's where we hold, where we have library events.
Okay.
That's where the Friends meeting, the annual meeting is going to be in there.
That used to have major water leakage and stuff. Is that resolved? That's what I was
That,
asking.
so, when the initial flooding took place that knocked out the children's room, from what I understand, that was damaged as well, that area, and the carpet needed to be replaced in there.
Yep.
And there were some wiring issues as well. But those have all been addressed and those are all fixed.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
The teen room is, so if you enter in the library, if you don't go up the stairs and you head back
It's on the
to
back. Yeah.
straight back, right?
Yeah.
So straight back is the teen room. To the left, beyond in the back to the left is the children's room.
Okay. So just a quick time check. We're at 8:30, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see any public, so 4 items on the agenda. So we'll continue on and certainly pause if we need to have any deep discussion. But I'd like to keep it moving in before 9 o'clock. That said, I'll be brief on this next one, or we can get into more detail if you'd like. But with this strategic plan, so we have a 5-year strategic plan that is now well overdue to be done, because a lot of it was because we were in between directors and the pandemic and the flooding, and it just hadn't been a priority. But the strategic plan serves a purpose. The main purpose is so that we can go out and apply for grants, right? And one of the grants, the big one, was the $7.x million that we got from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners for the library. That's how we did the expansion. So we wouldn't have been able to apply for that grant if we didn't have a strategic plan. So it's important that we prioritize this now, that we have a fully staffed board and a great library director and a fully staffed librarian staff as well. That said, we did look at one vendor, and we agreed that the price point was a little too high for what we were looking for, and also they weren't local. So I took that feedback and I went back through some of the discussions I had with the other library trustees from Massachusetts. Even though some of them had recommended that company from Illinois, there are some other local resources that I have reached out to, and some boards will actually do their strategic plan in-house if they have the skills to do so on their board or with somebody close to the board. So I'm communicating with another former trustee because she had reached out a couple of years ago with some resources, and they used a library director who also does strategic plans for libraries, not their own library, but is able to contract out, and that's the person that helped them get their strategic plan. But she said it was still a heavy lift and it was a lot of work, right, rather than outsourcing it to somebody and just letting them do the whole thing. So we have to kind of figure out where our comfort level is in terms of how much we want to outsource and how much money we want to spend versus how much we want to facilitate ourselves, right? So I have an open invitation to speak with this person. Her name is Erin also, to talk about how they were able to get their strategic plan done. And I'd also reached out to the same director. I think they're in, I want to say, not Natick. It's right around there. It's Waltham. The director in Waltham does strategic planning. And then there's also another person who's based out of Boston, but I think does more municipal, maybe not libraries, but more, larger town strategic plans. So, so I do have a few lines, and the ball is moving, and like other trustees want to help out because they all need to do this as well. So, if I hit any snags, I'll certainly alert the board. But I think we have some good momentum at this point, and Carrie is my backup right now in terms of talking with different strategic planning consultants. So she and I will continue that work, but certainly if anybody would like to be part of those discussions or assist in that effort.
I'd be happy to join along. I'm pretty passionate about strategic plans. And then I don't know, did you have a chance to connect with the arts consulting group at all to hear from them?
No, I hadn't reached out to them.
So we've used them with some other boards I've been on, and I know they've just been fabulous to work with in the product they produce, and they have a library segment of what they do too. So I'm happy to also connect you to them
Yeah, please.
if we want to see. So
Yeah, great. I will certainly bring you into those discussions. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I do strategic planning for a living.
Fantastic.
In my professional world, this is part of I don't get into the tactical operation or the operational aspect as much as I do. I'm curious, because on the planning board, we do have a 20-year plan that we created, but I think we had help from CMRPC, and Bob was the chair for that, and he spends a lot of hours there, so we get credit for that, so we had some support. I think there should be something leverageable that we could dust off and give some structure to the strategic plan as to what could be the components and what are we trying to get to the 5 years. I'm curious to see if we can at least add that to an agenda for discussion.
Have you seen our current one? So this is on the website, and it was
Okay.
also part of the meeting packet as well.
Okay.
So they've done these before, so there's structure, that's as it relates to libraries. But it would be fantastic if
Yeah,
you
if you wanna
take a look over and see if it kind of meets with what you're expecting, the strategic plan to look like.
Yep.
Well, that's great. We have an unexpected resource on the board now. Excellent. Any further discussion? Okay. Next item of business is the Children's Room grand reopening celebration. Tom.
Yes, so moving right along with that. So we had discussed this last fall, and the board had approved a certain amount of money to be used for this, which was $6,000. And so the children's librarian and I are in the process of planning the event and getting the best resources we possibly can for such a celebration. So again, just to reiterate, it's going to be June 21st. It's going to begin at 9 a.m. on the Grafton Common. We have that reserved. And it's going to be including like bouncy houses and things like that, a food truck, culminating in the big event at 1 p.m. is going to be somebody who I'm unfamiliar with, but lots of other people seem to be very familiar with, Mr. Kim, who will be providing a concert, and so people are pretty excited about that. We do have a rain date being July 12th. It's going to be great. It's going to be a pretty exciting time, and all the trustees are cordially invited and encouraged to join us for that. We would love to have as many people there who can speak of the library as possible. So June 21st is the date. There are a couple of things that we just wanted to run by to see like what types of things we can have. One idea is that it would be great to have the children's room staff in attendance. So normally we have about 3 people working in the children's room on a Saturday. There's going to be a lot of people right down there, all excited about libraries. So we would like to have the children's room staff proper, the ones who regularly work there, attending the event, which would mean additional hours there. And then also to cover the room, have additional other staff members who are willing to work the children's room while the children's room staff are over at the event. Is it possible in what you've allotted for our usage for this, are we allowed to use that on salary for staff members for extra hours?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
Any objections?
As long as it doesn't run afoul to the union contract. I don't know what details or how you allot or divvy out hours or preference to people who may be willing to put in extra hours. I don't know off the top of my head. As long as you're abiding by the union contract.
The person I'm working with is the union rep,
All right,
so I'm sure she's thought of that
all
already.
right, all right,
So
cool.
I'm pretty comfortable
All right,
that
good.
she's already thought of that because she's very enthusiastic about having all of them there.
So what about 9 a.m. to when?
So 9 a.m. Till about 12:30, and the only reason it stops there is just so we can break down the bouncy houses to focus the attention towards the concert, which will be at 1.
So I think it is I'm crossing my fingers that we don't need to use the rain date. Or
Yeah.
if we did,
Yeah.
that we wouldn't go through a second rain date. I absolutely understand the importance of having that in close proximity to the library and keeping it on the common versus having it like when the concerts sometimes have a rain date and they're at the municipal center, gymnasium where they do the yoga or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of having a rain date versus move it to some place that is not close to the library.
Right. We really want to tie it in so closely to
Right.
to the building itself. If for nothing else, just to encourage people to, if they're not as familiar with the library, come on over.
Great point. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but really this is to thank the community for being so patient
Sorry.
with
Yeah.
us. Did you mention it?
I didn't know,
Oh,
but it's a great
yeah,
point. Right.
Being so patient with us while we work through the issue of the water damage in the children's room, because we were closed for so long and they were displaced, and tears. I mean,
Yeah.
kids were in tears multiple times.
Yeah.
They wanted to come and use the library, and we weren't ready for them, and it was heartbreaking. And this is well within our power to do is to donate some funds so that we can celebrate the grand reopening of the children's room. So yes, it says right there in the agenda. But thank you.
We will need police detail, which Kim has already looked into and arranged for that. The head of the children's room had an idea. They wanted to have something to hand out. They thought it would be nice for people to be able to read something. And so they had put together this design, Grafton Public Library Children's Room, a place where adventures begin. And so they were thinking of doing this as stickers, for people to put on their water bottles, for people to put on their cars, or something like that. So we're thinking about having these made up, and then people can hand them out. And if we have more than the number of people who attend, we'll have other events. So you'd be okay with us looking into that?
Yeah, I mean, you
I mean,
can
again, as
you
long
can
as we're
expend the
within
money.
the-
Yeah,
We're within the scope? Okay.
that's a great idea.
Okay.
Is how big is it really gonna be that big or?
I'm thinking it's going to be, it's not going to be this big. No, I'm thinking it's going to be more the water bottle size.
Mhm.
So this doesn't require any partial road closing, does it?
Road closing, no.
All right.
Having somebody there to safely escort people
Okay.
across the road.
All
Yes.
right. My point was the select board is the sort of governing authority over road
Yeah,
closures.
no, we've already been in discussion with the town with
Awesome.
everything that we need to reserve
cool.
it and make sure that we got everything for that.
All right.
Yep.
So just
And-
I'll go with the tail end. So go ahead and
Oh,
finish.
it was just we were also thinking about we wanted to have some like balloon twisters, that's hard. Those things are hard. So we were looking at getting professional balloon twisters. But again, if it's within the scope of what the trustees have approved, you're fine?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep. So, do you mean like the person who runs the magic store right there on 140 towards Worcester or Shrewsbury?
I'm not sure who they've contacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would be a good resource.
Okay.
Because we've just gone in there because I did rent some items. We did a 90th birthday celebration for Jerome Wheelock, who donated the money for the original structure in 2017. And we rented, snow cone machine and things from him.
Oh, okay.
And when we went to go get those items, the owner was there, and he did some balloon animals for my kids.
Oh, wow.
He also does magic and stuff too. So
Oh, I'll definitely, we'll reach out to
I
them.
think they could be a good resource.
Great.
Yep.
So I encourage everybody to
Yeah.
join us.
So, if at all possible, and I don't know if there's that many, but it would be fantastic if we had enough trustee name tags for
We do.
everybody.
We've got, yep, we have those in the office, right?
I don't know
Do
if
we
they
have
have
trustee?
everyone, it says trustee, but it doesn't have everyone's.
Yeah,
name.
just
Just
saying
trustee is
trustee.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as long as there's enough for everyone.
I believe there
'Cause
was.
I think so. I think we
Yeah.
have more than seven.
Yeah, so if you attend, make sure to stop in the library, Tom's
Yes.
office,
Yep.
and can just put a little magnet on there. It helps to
Flag.
start
Yeah,
conversations.
well,
Yeah.
identify you, yeah.
Yeah, and then we return them to the library.
Can't hide when you're a trustee.
Not to beat a dead horse, but since it's a library function and we may be there, so it's sort of like similar to National Night Out. This is probably something we would want to post, even if we're not deliberating. We might have a quorum present at a library function. So
Probably,
yeah,
so just post that there's a library event where the trustees, a certain number.
in other
of
words, there's a
trustees will
library
be there.
trustees meeting. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a meeting,
In other words, it saves us having the perception of having any unposted deliberations. In other words, there's probably the unlikelihood that any four of us are going to have either a conversation at the same time or a serial conversation regarding library matters. But the fact that we could end up in the same close proximity as a quorum for a library function versus incidentally being present at some non-library function, I think it keeps us on safe ground. I know a lot of other committees do that for National Night Out.
So just post an agenda with no
Ice cream social.
items.
Yeah, just say,
The reason
Yeah,
why
just
we're there.
this one, so
Right.
that-
Yep, same.
all right.
And then we can approve no meeting minutes after.
yeah, the proven minutes of a non-meeting.
Yeah,
I got a giraffe.
I got a giraffe.
Maybe we'll get a good picture together. I can post it.
yeah.
And to the chair, before we proceed, I have one question on the strategic plan. I can ask it now, or I can wait for the end, once we are done with the agenda.
Are we finished with the,
Children's, yes.
okay, yep, go ahead.
So I reviewed it quickly. I think it's a fairly straightforward one that I saw in the strategic plan with the objectives and the goals. Do we have an update for the 2016-2020 strategic plan? Do we have an update in terms of what's the actual progress against those objectives? All these objectives, the 30, 40, all objectives are measurable.
Yeah, it would have been back in 2020 when they would have met to review.
That was the last time.
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's been a difficult and challenging 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
But
think
yeah,
that would be a good starting point before
Sure.
we get to a next strategic plan to say, what was the progress that we made the last time around we had a strategic plan?
Okay.
And then, is there any leftover?
I think that can be an action item for myself leading the strategic plan discussion to see what was done at the tail end of that one.
And to clarify, do you just want where it ended for 2020 or like where we are today against those goals?
As of today,
As
against
of
those
today?
goals. Yeah.
So I don't think you have to go back to 2020 and say like where
Well,
did they land there.
That's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, just as of
because-
today.
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. We need the director to be able to speak to all those items. So I think if we had something where we had addressed it, we could start there. But if it needs to happen, then we'll have to make time for that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, on to the policy update. So one of the responsibilities of the Grafton Public Library Board of Trustees is to approve policy, not always write it, but we have a policy subcommittee who works alongside the director and library staff to develop policy for the library. And then once the policy goes through its life cycle process, which is from being written, reviewed and updated by the policy subcommittee, the legal, the union, and then it comes to the Board of Library Trustees to vote on it. And at that point, if there's really serious issues with the policy, it would have to go back and start all over again in that cycle, right? So that's kind of the life cycle. We are a new policy subcommittee. We just lost a member, so I would like one more library trustee to join the policy subcommittee. But right now it's myself, Tom, Kim, Mary Mertland, who's what is her role at the library?
Head of Borrower Services?
Head of Borrower Services, and myself, and then John Babrisky, who is no longer a trustee. So if there's any trustees who would like to join me, happy to hear that now, or we can discuss at a later date. So
Can I ask a question? What's the
Yes.
commitment? How often does the subcommittee meet, and is it in person? Is it over Zoom?
we'd like to meet in person these days because we've had some challenges with Zoom. And also things, it is a public meeting, right? So what we found, and this is no secret here, is sometimes people take things out of context and they post it on Facebook and then cause a stir in social media, right? So if people really want to know what's going on, they can come to the meetings. We meet in public session, and we found that was more conducive to our operations. And also, we had a meeting hacked, which wasn't fantastic either. And we had to basically cancel the entire meeting in Zoom.
A Zoom bombing?
Yes, a Zoom bombing, because it's a public meeting, right? It's very difficult to meet in public session and have a Zoom and secure that. So we do try to meet in person, but certainly would hear, other to the contrary, why we should meet remotely as well. I know it's difficult for one of the committee members to travel for that meeting because they're out in Lancaster. So, yep. And it's just once a month, right? So I think,
June 4th is the next meeting.
yeah, the next meeting would be June 4th. Yeah. So we meet in public session, and we post an agenda, and we approve minutes, just as this board does. And every member, even the staff members, are voting members of that policy subcommittee. So some of our ongoing business, we had the epidemic pandemic policy, which I believe has already gone to legal. And what we're trying to do is bundle some of the policies so that it makes it efficient with legal's time and the town's money, who has to pay legal to review these policies. So right now, I believe we have 4 policies completed: epidemic, program, policy, volunteer policy, and material selection policy. So we're
Still
hoping,
waiting from legal.
yeah. So
We're-
we have new town council, I think, and we're still getting used to the process, so we're a little delayed in terms of bringing things to the board. But we've been very busy. I mean, 4 new policies, right, that have passed our muster. And then I won't go into great detail in terms of the minutes, but one of the things that we're working on now is the library displays policy. We've essentially gone through that, and actually Tom and Mary do a really fantastic job of really kind of tearing some of these existing policies apart and making it fit for our needs before it even comes to the policy subcommittee. So that one is mostly ready.
Pretty close.
It's
I think as of our next meeting, it'll be ready to go.
Yeah, so we'll have at least 5 policies that are in legal's hands. But again, it still needs to go to, and it doesn't take long actually, I think, for the union to review it as well.
Right.
'Cause I think
Does this group have to like vote it in, or
we do, yes.
we do? So do we not see it till after legal views it? Is there like an opportunity just to socialize it in case there's feedback? It gets in before it gets to legal?
Yeah, so I know I'm not doing a great job of telling you everything that kind of went on in that meeting because there's a lot of detail, right? But we would invite any trustees who would like to sit on one of those meetings. Even if you're not an official committee member, we do post it in you know, an agenda, so trustees can join if there's a policy they're interested in contributing to, right?
And I guess not so much like to help build or something, right? But like just the once it's drafted, is it allowed just to be emailed around to this group
Yeah, that
and then they can
that's
reach out, or is
you
that
are
outside?
you are in a hitting it right in the nose. Like
Okay.
we've tried to socialize them over email, not socialize because we're not really allowed to do that, but at least send them out. But then you know you're eliciting feedback, which is really a form of meeting. So we kind of put the kibosh on that. And felt that, you know, this process of having a formal policy subcommittee, and if there's policies that people would like to review, they can come and review them, but, I don't know, is it something that there could just be a repository that, trustees have access to? You know, I mean, I would be
Drafts?
amenable to that, like you could look at
Yeah.
draft policies at any time you want, and I wouldn't be eliciting feedback, you know, say,
No, and even just to say like if you have feedback, come to the meeting to share the feedback. I think would.
but
be
you would have to
appropriate.
you'd have to read it at some
Yeah.
some way, right? So that's what I'm talking about, is giving trustees access to some drafts.
Should I include the trustees when I send the agenda and then the minutes from the previous meeting? Would that be helpful?
Thank you, Kim.
That's one way I would be amenable to that.
Yeah, I would just hate for all this work to be done and get here and someone be like, "Oh, what about X?" And we're like, "I wish we had thought of that at the beginning."
We've had those discussions. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And I think Aaron has mentioned, and it's I'm very mindful now that when we approve as a larger committee the subcommittee's recommendations, it's by no means suggested that we rubber stamp that, but in the same light appreciate all the effort that they've done, so that we're not redoing the work as a committee, and to really trust the process. And if things need to be tweaked at a later date, we could do that just for the sake of time.
Oh, I totally understand. And
Yeah.
I have to write policy for work, and it is a thankless process.
Yeah.
So it's but just thinking. So that's helpful. I just want to understand how the flow works and like when we contribute, because I didn't want to get in that situation
Right.
where
Yeah.
at the end everyone's like, "Where were you?" So.
Yeah, right. And that was a fantastic way to put it, is to really trust the process and trust
Yeah.
the people that you're not appointing them to the subcommittee, but these are the people that you're entrusting to be part of the subcommittee. Yeah, I mean, you could rewrite policy till you're blue in the face, you know, and nobody's going to be 100% happy with it, right? But if it has some major flaws, then we vote it down during this meeting, and it probably won't take too long to go back through that process again.
Right.
It'll probably be something that's glaring, oh, we totally missed that, you're right, we can't approve that. Or we say, yep, we'll approve this with this amendment, and as long as it's not something that upsets, you know, legal or, you know,
Union.
union. Thank you very much. Right.
Aaron, if I may say as well, the policies that we're working on are existing policies that are being updated.
Got it. So
Some.
it's not
So
brand new.
we're not creating from scratch new policies. It's an organic process.
Okay.
So, you know, just as some of them are from like 2019 and it's like, we really need to readdress this, it's not like once they're accepted, we can't touch them again for, there's a grace period where you can't work on them anymore. If we recognize something, we recognized recently that one of the circulation policies says that what our fines are. Well, we're a fine-free library. So clearly there are things that need to be addressed, not just waiting for them to cycle through. So I think that if we were writing from scratch, I think there would be a little more urgency to have more input. But since these are really just updating.
Perfect. No, that's very helpful perspective.
Yeah.
I just had one comment that is along policy, just as a reminder to the board, existing board members and new board members and the public in general, that it's sometimes we lose sight of the fact and the importance of the library's freedom to read statement, which is online, and it's a very strongly worded, if you don't like it, don't read it. It's probably about 3 pages in length. First Amendment's under attack by just about everyone these days. People are always trying to squash either unpopular speech or speech and viewpoints that they don't agree with. And I just want to say that as a huge reminder, I think it's imperative that we regularly read that statement and really absorb what that says, and in really defending that First Amendment, those protections, that's a huge thing that we're about, and we often don't talk about it. So I just want to just put that out there to my fellow trustees and the public, that document is among the policies, the freedom to read statement, and it's a really important item. So.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Roger. Is it a policy?
I don't know. I
don't
think
believe
it's
it
not a
is.
policy, but I think it may be found in the place where the policies are also found.
It's in
Okay.
the About section.
Is it on the
I
about?
believe, and we have a mission statement.
If it's hard to get to, I would recommend that it's probably in these political times, probably a document that I would recommend being more prominently placed
Yeah.
on the website.
Indeed.
Okay.
And it largely mirrors the American Library Association's freedom to read statement.
Yeah. Okay. So perhaps as an action item,
I'd have to look around if
Okay.
we'd have to put it
honestly,
right there up front.
Yeah.
which is
I agree with that.
proving your point.
You're right. It's just
Very good. So,
all right. Thank you.
sorry, that was a quick, well, not so quick update on policy, but we still have quite a few policies that we're working on as well. Circulation policy, community room reservations policy, and then reposting the fine-free policy, because that was a policy that was approved by the board and never made it to the website.
Okay.
We had one that we had written during the pandemic, and it was really just to give people a reprieve from fines. But then we decided, as part of the Grafton Free Public Library, to be a fine-free library, which was trending at the time as well, and we worked very hard for that. So I think there's only a few in Massachusetts that still collect fines. So we're happy to be in the majority there. So. Next item on the agenda is the director's report.
And as you two will discover from being in these meetings, pretty much everything in the director's report has been discussed already. So there's some statistics in the beginning, some numbers as to what we're circulating, but everything else I believe I've addressed. Other than the staffing, and we had a staff development day. That was April, but there were some issues with our emergency alert system, which is a button system that is at all the staff desks in case of imminent emergency, and so that has been fixed. There were some issues that were identified during our staff development day. Person came back and addressed all those, so we're all as safe as we can be.
So I have a question, Tom, and this may be more applicable to what is probably under new business, even though we're now on director's report. When you mentioned, emergency alert systems, I think kind of, sort of along the lines of this. I had heard some talk about some concern whether or not we may be surprised by an ICE visit, immigration, and what message we want to send out there, and what ability we have, or sovereignty, so to speak, if any, regarding keeping that as a safe space.
Yes, I have been addressing this recently, and the discussion came up with some of the staff, and so I put together something for them, which I sent around an email last week, and I can share it with the trustees as well.
Right.
You'd be curious to see what I put together. Basically, I spoke with the town administration and the chief of police, and I went on to the CW Mars listserv of directors to see what other libraries were doing, and Worcester, fortunately, was right on top of things, and also reached out to MBLC. And so from the information that I gleaned from discussions with all those people, I put together some recommendations for the staff, as well as clarifying some of the issues as to what we can and cannot do, because there is certainly some confusion there. I think we might all be aware that recently in Worcester there was some unpleasant situations with ICE agents detaining a person, and some other people were arrested, and that's really what brought about the concern for this as an issue that we needed to discuss. Basically what it comes down to is that if we're an open building, and so if ICE agents want to come and walk around, there's nothing that we can do to eliminate that, just as we can eliminate police officers or third grade teachers or Boy Scouts, or anybody who wants to come into the building is free to come into the building. We're an open space. If they are there to try to detain somebody, they have to have a legal warrant in order to do so, which unfortunately we're library staff. We are not trained to know how to identify a legal warrant. So on the recommendation of the police chief, the idea was to call them, and they can come and they can identify whether it's a legal warrant or not. So I shared this information with the staff, as well as some things that they are not allowed to do. We're not allowed to hide anybody. We're not allowed to tell people that they cannot answer questions. There's quite a bit that we are actually not allowed to do. But in a nutshell, it was if the ICE agents show up at the library, then we need to respect the legal process, and our best course of action is to call the police to make sure that they come down and ensure that is taking place.
So in our internal and external cameras, video and audio, or is that just video? Video, because you're not allowed to audio, right?
Just video.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Oh, and one other element was that the ICE agents are allowed into the building. Any place that is designated as staff only, they're not allowed into
Okay.
without a separate warrant.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
So
Thank you.
I think we are kind of tangentially moving out of the director's report, but
Yes. I
know.
thank you for an update.
I know. It was only in the context of when you mentioned about emergency alert.
Yeah.
I just kind of
emergency,
I took
but
the
yeah.
liberty. I took a big liberty in extending that conversation.
Great, thank you. Any further questions on the director's report? Okay, great. Hearing none, I don't see any public input. But thank you for being our public for the past, few meetings and listening in. So the next meetings are the Friends on June 10th at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. And if you'd like to attend that Friends meeting to get a sense of who they are or just say hello, Carrie can share the meeting information with you. The Policy Subcommittee is meeting on June 4th at 6:30 p.m. in Conference Room 219 at the library. So please reach out to me if you'd like to be the other trustee to join the Policy Subcommittee. And then the next Board of Library Trustees meeting is on June 25th at 7 p.m. right here in this meeting room. That said, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Okay, motion made and
Second.
seconded. Any discussion?
If we were to add any items to the agenda, do we do it now? This was
For next meeting.
exploring for the next meeting, exploring the option for getting in the Zoom link for our next meeting, to discuss at the next meeting.
So for
Oh.
agenda, do we do that via email or how does that work?
Why don't you discuss it with the chair?
Okay.
And then, we can determine if, I don't, I know that we can meet via Zoom.
Can I interrupt? Sorry. So I just was looking for an option to add that to the agenda to discuss in the next meeting.
Oh, sure.
And then we can finalize in the
Sure,
next
sure, sure.
meeting, how are
Yes.
we going to go?
So, all trustees can bring up whatever topics they want and put them on the agenda.
Okay,
So you can bring up, you can talk about, neighborhood dogs or something, whatever you want, but, generally we like to be, relevant to the library, but sure. That can go to Kim when she calls for agenda items.
okay.
Yep, thank you for the clarification. Excellent. All right, so any further discussion? All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Declare the motion carried. Thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned at 9:10 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for running the meeting, sir.
Of course. This is like